Hello again. So we are working in business math, chapter 1 still, gross income, lesson 1.5, which is called salary. So we're going to learn how to calculate some salary on this one. So in some of the other ones, we were learning straight time pay. That was lesson 1. So just, number of hours worked times the hours you worked, just basic straight time pay. Section 2 was more about calculating overtime. So, if you work more than 8 hours in a day or 40 hours a week, or special circumstances like working on Saturdays or Sundays sometimes give you overtime pay or double time pay. That was also in section 2. Then we looked through calculating the hours on a time card and pay based off of that. And then section 4 was more about peacetime work, which means you have to produce a certain number of pieces in order to get paid. So it's kind of evolving here for the payment. So now we're in salary. So a salary is, a very specific type of payment. And this is where we're going to get into the wording of, biweekly, semi-monthly, monthly, weekly, things like that. So we're going to get into some new terminology here. Make sure you're reading the book and looking through the examples, looking at the formulas they give you. It's very important that we use that book as a resource. We need that book. So they always give us this little summary at the top, and then they'll give us an equation or a formula. It's not always everything you need. Pay attention to the book. Can't say that enough. All right. So a salary is a fixed amount of money that you earn on a regular basis. Your salary may be paid weekly, biweekly, semi-monthly, or monthly. Your annual salary is the total salary you earned during a year. So let's talk about the words really quick. So first, and this is just something I noted at the top here, make sure you know there's 52 weeks in a year. So if you're getting a annual salary of blah, 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 whatever the number is, and you're being paid weekly, you would divide by 52 to figure out how many, figure out what your payment was every week. And then, of course, there's 12 months in a year, and most students don't get that one. I've had students kind of mess up the calculation for weeks because they think of a month as 4 weeks, and then there's 12 of those, so there must be 48 weeks, because 12 times 4 gives you the 48. But 4 weeks in a month is kind of an average. It doesn't actually work out that way, so be careful on that calculation. There's 52 weeks in a year, 12 months in a year. And then if we look at weekly, so weekly is easy. We know there's 52. Monthly is also easy because there's 12. So hopefully those two make sense. Biweekly, so biweekly means every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. Oops, that was supposed to be an S. I don't know what that is. Go back. S. And then semi-monthly, and I've had students accidentally mess this one up and think that it means every 2 months. Semi-monthly means it means twice a month is what semi-monthly means. So doesn't mean quite the same thing as bi-weekly. It's not the same, because remember, there's not just the general 4 weeks in a month. So it doesn't mean every 2 weeks you're getting paid when you say semi-monthly. It means halfway through the month. So usually on it's the 1st or the 15th, or the 15th and the 30th, or however they work that out. But it'll be 2 pay periods in every month. All right. So then they give you the formula down here: salary per pay period. Remember, pay period just means how are you being paid? Weekly, monthly, semi-annually, or semi-monthly, bi-weekly. If you're being paid semi-annually, that would mean twice a year. So hopefully not having to wait a whole 6 months to get paid. But so we're just looking at, how much do I make in every pay period? So I take my annual salary and I divide it by the number of pay periods. So that's why I have to know this terminology in order to understand. If it's bi-weekly, it's every 2 weeks, and there's 52 weeks in a year. This means that you're going to divide by 26, because 52 divided by 2 every 2 weeks is 26. Semi-monthly, if it's twice a month and there's 12 months, well, that means that it's 24, because 12 times 2, twice a month, is 24 payments. So this tells me how many payments I'll be getting based on the description on the pay period. So Devin Price is a high school teacher and soccer coach. His annual salary is $37,440. What is his bi-weekly salary? So awesome that he's a teacher and he gets paid bi-weekly. Most teachers get paid monthly. But hey, very cool if he gets paid bi-weekly. So we're going to take his annual salary, 37,400. Oops, 440. I don't know why I wrote 2 zeros there. 440. We're going to divide by the number of pay periods. So if you've already written your notes up top, makes it super duper easy because I'm just going to go to biweekly and go, oh, that was 26. There's 26 payments there because biweekly means every 2 weeks. There's 52 weeks in the year. I divided by 2 and I got 26. So if you do these kind of notes ahead of time, you already have them. You don't have to redo that every single problem. So we just simply divide and we get $1,440 every 2 weeks. That's how much he gets paid. All right. I think for the most part, all of these are going to be very, very similar. Just pay attention to the wording. So semi-monthly. This one says weekly. The next one. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at number 4 because this one does actually change up a little bit. So Mary O'Connell is earning a weekly salary of $521.60. So they gave us a weekly salary instead of the annual in this case. As a payroll clerk, so that's what she's doing right now. She's accepted a new assignment in tax processing department. In her new position, she will be paid an annual salary of $30,534. How much more will she earn in her new position? So we need to make them comparable. They're giving us weekly salary. They're giving us annual salary. We need them to be comparable. We don't really know what's going on there. So you can do one of two things. You can either convert this to an annual salary by multiplying by 52 weeks, because there's 52 weeks in the year, and then simply subtract what the annual salary is here from her new one. And then because they want to know how much she's going to be making per week, you'd have to divide by 52 again. You can also divide this by 52. Instead of multiplying by 52 here, you can divide by 52 and then subtract this weekly salary from this weekly salary. And you'll also find out the total amount there, how much more she'll be making. So you can do one of two ways, but you need to make them the same unit. Right now, this is weekly, this is annually. They're not the same unit. You can't really compare these. So make sure you either make this annual, subtract, and then divide by 52 again, or divide by 52 to make them both weekly, and then subtract there. So I didn't work it out for you. I just kind of explained it to you. Hopefully that made sense. On this next one, I just wanted to, again, kind of go through a little explanation. So Joseph Cheyenne is earning an annual salary of $24,895. He has been offered the job in this ad. How much more would he earn per month if he is to be paid the minimum or the maximum? So they want us to work out both. So in this ad, we can see, and I know it's a little small here. I can zoom in. So hopefully you have the paper in front of you here too, so you can kind of see that. So it says 28 to 36,000. So this means 28,000 to 36,000. So if he's paid the minimum, then he'll get the 28,000. If he's paid the maximum, then he'd get the 36,000. So make sure you're paying attention, to the ad definitely, so that you can see how much he's being paid. So the rest of this information in the ad, we don't actually need. So if you have a degree in computer science plus 2 more years experience with Quark, send your resume today to Executive Data Processing, PO Box 1746. So the rest of this is just to make it look more realistic as far as an ad goes. But really, all I care about is this first bit right here, just the numbers. But you have to make sure, read through it to make sure there isn't other important information there so that you're not missing something. So with this one, if he's paid, let's see, and they want to know how much more. So this is another how much more calculation, right? So we would want to take the new payment, the $28,000 for the minimum, and subtract from what he's making. And that'll tell us the difference, right? We also want to divide by 12 in this case, because they want a per month. So make sure you're paying attention. Again, here's the wording. It's in here. We just need to make sure we're paying attention to it. So for the maximum, do the same thing, but you're going to do the $36,000, subtract from what he's making right now. That'll tell you how much more he's going to be making at the maximum, and then again divide by 12, so you get the monthly payment. I've had many students just kind of stop at the subtraction part because they weren't paying attention to the monthly part. So make sure you're getting the answer they're asking you to get. Let's see. The next one is pretty darn similar, so I think we're going to go ahead and go down to the bottom one here. Let's see, accounting clerk. I want to make sure. Okay, I did have a note on this one I wanted to cover really quick. So considering the two ads for an accounting clerk, if you worked 40 hours per week for 50 weeks, how much would each company pay per hour? So I know there's 52 weeks in a year, and this has confused some students before, so I put a little note on it. Think of it like it means that there's 2 weeks of vacation or 2 weeks that you're not being paid for. You're being paid for the 50 weeks. So that's all that means. Is that your payment is based off of the 50 weeks. So you'd want to calculate how many hours would you have worked in the 50 weeks. So with this one, this is the payment here. So accounting clerk, they get $18,500, and then they give you a bunch of information, fast-paced CRT, type 60 words per minute, benefits, and then they give you a number to call. So we have the annual payment, and we want to divide that by the number of hours that they'll work in that time so that we know how many, because we want to know per hour. That's kind of a different one there. So how much am I going to make per hour doing this? Well, they're 40-hour weeks, and she's working for 50 of them. So we need 40 times 50. That'll tell us how many hours she's actually worked, which is 2,000 hours, right? 40 times 50 is 2,000. So when I divide, and I'm just going to cross this off because I did this calculation already. It's 40 times 50 is 2,000. So I'm going to divide by 2,000. That'll tell me how much she makes in this position. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing for the next one. Now it's 16,500 a year for a great company, full benefits, interviewing now, and then call this number. So same thing. You're going to take that same amount, and you're going to divide it again by how many hours would she have worked. And they're not changing it. It doesn't matter which one. If she picks the first one or the second one, she's still working for 40 hours a week for 50 weeks. So you're still dividing by that exact same number we just calculated up here, which is 2,000 hours, right? So we just need to calculate out these two. So I did some of the work there for you. You just have to finish the calculation on these ones. All right, let's look at this algebra one. Again, algebra it doesn't mean that it's going to be a super difficult one. What it means is they want you to think about it. What have you learned, and how can you apply that? So Michelle Hong noticed that her gross pay per period increased by $2,800 when her employer changed from a biweekly pay plan to a monthly pay plan. What is Michelle's annual salary? So this one, I'm going to admit it's a little bit more involved, and that's my way of saying there are some more steps in this one. We have to take into account a few more things. So they only give us that her pay period increased by $2,800. We really don't have a whole lot of information here, but believe it or not, we have enough information to figure out what her annual salary is. We can do this. So just by knowing how much her salary went up by changing the pay period. So if I know, I'm going to go A equals annual. So that's her annual salary. And B is her biweekly salary, or not, well, it'd still be salary, but biweekly payment. M is her monthly. So remember, she's changing from a biweekly to a monthly. So we need some variables here. So biweekly, if I want to know what annual is on the biweekly, then I'm going to have M, or sorry, not M, I'm looking at biweekly. I'm being silly here. B, biweekly, times 26 payments. Because remember, at the top of the page where we wrote our notes, if you're paid biweekly, you'll get 26 payments for the whole year. So this is the annual payment that she used to get. And now she's going to get an annual payment for monthly. So that's going to be M times 12. So we have two equations here. Both have two variables in it. So they're not super helpful yet. But what we want to do is set it up so that we can substitute one in for the other. So I'm going to kind of manipulate this one just a little bit, and I'm going to make it equal B. So if I'm multiplying by 26, what I can do is divide by 26 on both sides. So that cancels this 26. It moves it over. So now I'm dividing the annual salary by 26. By doing that, I'll figure out what were her biweekly payments. And now I can kind of keep moving on this one. And I'm going to do the same thing with the next one here. So let's see. Because I can also tell you that her monthly payments, and this is where this increased by is going to come in. So her monthly payments, M, is equal to her biweekly payment plus $2,800 more. All right. So I have, it's somewhat of a manipulation, but not really. This one's not a manipulation yet. And by manipulation, all I mean is I'm like moving numbers around. I'm getting them where I want them. I'm not changing anything. I'm just moving them around, right? So that I can get the equations that I need. So I know that M equals B plus 28. So if you notice what I'm doing is I'm trying to get B in the equation. I'm trying to change this up so that I just have the B here. So if I look at this one and I take the annual, and I'm going to take this one, I'm going to write it over here, A equals M times 12. So I'm going to substitute M for B plus 28 times 12. And then if you notice, I can substitute again. I know that B equals A divided by 26. So I'm going to substitute again. I'm substituting twice in here. So A equals A over 26 because I'm replacing the B with A over 26 plus 2,800 times 12. So we've done a little bit of finagling there to get this equation, but now I've gotten down where I replaced the B or the M with a B in this one, B plus 2,800. And then I replaced the B again with A divided by 26. So I did a double substitution there. So this one is definitely one of the more involved algebra questions because we really aren't given a lot of information. So we have to do a lot of this kind of manipulating or finagling to get it where we want it so that we can calculate. Remember, you can't solve an equation if it has more than one variable. We need to get it down to one variable so that we can answer the question. And the question is, what is her annual salary, right? So when we solve this, A, we'll have the answer to that question, which is really awesome. So we have this times 12 on the outside here, right? We need to distribute. So we can either distribute or, and this is what I did when I worked it out earlier, I divided both sides by 12 so that I didn't have to deal with this fraction with the 12 on top. So what I ended up with was A over 12, that's this side, A divided by 12, equals A divided by 26 plus 2,800. And these 12s cancel. 12 divided by 12 cancels. So it just kind of drops the parentheses. For whatever reason, that just seemed a little easier to me, so I did it that way. You can also distribute the 12 if you want here. So multiply by 12, multiply by 12. So if you do 12a over 26, and you actually try to divide 12 and 26, you're going to end up with a fraction. Not a huge problem. Or not a fraction, but a decimal. Sorry, you already have a fraction. So not a huge problem, but you're going to end up with, kind of a funky looking decimal there. So in this case, what I can do is combine these a's. So I can subtract a over 26 and a over 26. So I'm moving this fraction over to the other side. This one's going to cancel because even though they're kind of funny looking numbers, a divided by 26 minus a divided by 26, they're the same number. Whatever a is being divided by 26 in both situations. It's the same number. So now I'm going to have a over 12 minus a over 26 equals 2,800. All right, so we're almost there, promise. We're super close. We need to combine some fractions. So a over 12 minus a over 26. If you remember back, in previous math classes, we've learned how to do this. We need a like denominator. You can go through and find the lowest common denominator. I tend to be, again, a little bit lazy with this one, and I'm just going to do a like denominator, meaning I'm just going to do 12 times 26 because it's super easy. I don't have to worry about, going through and finding the lowest common denominator. If I do 12 times 26, I get 3. Oops, I put 15. It's actually 312. So 312, 312. So I'm going to change both of these denominators into 312. Well, if I did 12 times 26 to get 312 in this first one, I'd multiply the top by 26. So I'd end up with 26a on the top. And then if I did 26 times 12 to get 312 here, I'm going to multiply by 12 on the top. So really, it moves the 26 and the 12 up to the top. It also fixed this negative issue, if you notice that, because this one's smaller. Well, it's 12. It's actually not smaller. The larger the fraction is, or the denominator is on the bottom, the smaller the fraction actually is. So this wasn't smaller, but a lot of students kind of look at that and go, 12 and 26, and there's going to be a negative issue. There isn't. It fixes itself. You can see 26 is definitely bigger than 12. There are 312 pieces here, so teeny tiny little pieces, but still 26 is bigger than 12. And this equals 2,800. All right, because I haven't changed the side at all. I'm just, again, this is a little manipulation when you're doing like denominators, so that you can actually combine them. So 26 minus 12 gets us 14a over 312 equals 2,800. So all I did there was I did 26a minus 12a. Once they're like denominators, I just add or subtract along the top. All right, so we have 2 more steps here and we will be all done. We need to deal with this 312 on the bottom because we need to get a by itself so we can figure this out. So we're going to multiply by 312 on both sides. And I'm going to start writing this up here. Sorry, I'm running out of room here. So I'm going to end up with 14a because 312 divided by 312 cancels. And I end up with, let me see, what was my number? A very large number here, 873,600. So my last step is simply to divide by 14 on both sides. Boom. And a equals 62,400. So there's my answer. Her annual salary, 62,400. Doesn't matter which biweekly or monthly, she's getting paid the same. She's just getting $2,800 more because she's not being paid as often. She's going from every 2 weeks to once a month. So her pay didn't actually change at all. It just, the pay period changed. So she's shifting and getting less payments per year. So the monthly payment we would divide by 12. The biweekly payment we would divide by 26. But you'd end up getting the same amount for the whole year. All right, well, I hope that helped. I know that one was definitely a little bit more than some of the other algebra ones, but I definitely hope it helped, and I will see you next time.